I want to welcome everybody to the 2022 5G Challenge closing ceremony. Woohoo! We made it! The 5G Challenge is a 2-year prize competition where we are helping to accelerate the adoption of open interfaces, interoperable subsystems, and multi-vendor solutions by fostering a vibrant, growing vendor community.
It's a fantastic opportunity to really drive our national security and our economic security. The Department of Defense is truly interested in pursuing open architectures because of the vendor diversity that it provides to the market space. It will generate U.S. telecommunications vendors.
This 5G Challenge is one way that NTIA ITS, the nation's Spectrum and Communications Lab, is supporting the Department of Defense Undersecretary for Research and Engineering 5G to Next G initiative.
Why is the ITS, NTIA, the Department of Commerce involved in the 5G Challenge? To spur competition, drive down costs, increase supplier diversity, and enable new entrants to take advantage of the expanding 5G marketplace.
Now you've got large mobile operators that are providing really systems that are prepackaged, that come in one standalone stack. There's proprietary software that ties those components together, and if something breaks, you have to go back to that vendor. So the department's really interested in being able to have multiple vendors providing solutions to that stack, pulling out that proprietary hardware and providing the opportunity where we're in some austere location and a piece of that stack breaks. So rather than having to call in those large mobile operators, we're able to quickly retrofit and plug and play components into that system on the fly.
This is unheard of in the telecom industry, right? There's no real concept of plug and play.
5G is the telecommunications network. So when we're talking about the 5G network, it starts with your phone. You'll see a 5G on your phone. That means it's connecting to a 5G network. We tested multi-vendor competitor components consisting of CUs, central units, DUs, distributed units, RUs, radio units, and their corresponding interfaces. And it's a new philosophy as opposed to LTE and 4G systems where we're now disaggregating the entire network. So now this facilitates different vendors being able to come in and play for the different pieces.
Cable Labs, it's a nonprofit innovation company. We're the host lab for the 5G Challenge.
VIAVI Solutions, we're a leading test and measurement company. We are the test equipment provider and partner for Cable Labs Curio to support the 5G Challenge. When I first heard of the 5G Challenge, it sounded really exciting, but then when I heard that it'd only be 3 weeks for every vendor to integrate, my jaw dropped, right? Because this plug and play concept, has been around in the industry. You see it in USB, you see it in Wi-Fi, but it's really never been done in a telecom, right? Because the complexity is just an order of magnitude higher.
We designed the challenge so that you started out with unit level testing, and you're testing both sides of the interface to make sure that it complies with the standard and the different profiles.
It really focused on testing each component individually first.
The vendors that were chosen after stage 2 and went to stage 3, they actually were able to come together and do an end-to-end call or data session.
This was a completely different challenge where each competitor had to come with their own unique components and get tested first in this emulator environment and then with other competitors that they have never worked with before.
That could be one of the major ways that a small business can get visibility in the field, right? Because that way you can say, no, my stuff works, right? And it's hard to argue with that, right? It's like, no, it works. We have the certification, we went through the independent testing.
Open radio access networks, what we're interested in is open architecture and how we can have those interoperable components that truly are plug and play.
Open RAN or ORAN is the disaggregation of the 5G network.
Open RAN is all about interoperability and open interfaces.
That's really important because it allows a small business market entry. These open standards and open implementations support a small company being able to bring their implementation and have it work in the ecosystem because it brings down the barriers.
So I come from Capgemini Engineering, part of Capgemini Group. We actually put out papers for both CU and DU, and at the end our CU was selected for the stage 2 purposes. Then as part of stage 2, it was a bracketed testing which happened with the VRV simulators with the CU. And then as part of stage 3, now the CU was actually integrated with the Radisys TU, with the RU coming from Margaret. We had a core emulator, we have the device emulator, and then end-to-end testing happened.
I am with Fujitsu Network Communication. We participated with our RU in the 5G challenge. Our main part was the RU tester, the test bed for the RU, where we did the conformance testing for Open RAN and the performance testing for Open RAN as well.
Mavenir is a complete end-to-end Open RAN supplier. We participated in terms of providing the CUs and the RUs for part of the 5G challenge.
Radisys actually participated with the OpenDU software system, hardware and software.
I brought in the CU, which sort of sits between the hardware that is actually providing the radio connection to your phone. I brought that technology because I thought that this is really where we can enter the market. It's something that we can virtualize and we can put on the cloud and we can actually develop into 5G as a service.
We were doing remote installation, so we actually got a server platform here at KTU and Cable Labs, and we actually were able to remotely install our CU software on that platform.
It's actually one of the first times there's been open wraparound testing done on each of the individual elements anywhere in the world. It's a new experience, learning new ways to do things, and the teams that were part of the 5G challenge actually, cooperated extremely well in bringing all the pieces together.
We want to integrate with more DU vendors just to prove that our radio works fine, just to prove to everyone also is Open RAN. You just need to agree on certain parameters, and then you have a successful integration with the radio and DU.
If you are compliant with some standard specifications and you meet some system of compliance requirements, then integration is no longer complex.
The 2022 5G Challenge Emulated Integration Challenge winners were Capgemini, Mavenir, Signal Systems, Radisys, and Fujitsu. And our network integration winners were Capgemini, Radisys, and Mavenir.
The software bill of materials, or SBOM, is a nested inventory for software. SBOMs play a pivotal role in providing much-needed transparency. The winner of the Best SBOM prize is Radisys.
Some of the lessons learned here was really come prepared. And that goes for any integration you're going to do across any software field, hardware field, or anything. You got to come prepared. You need to have your internal tests need to work and run, and those internal tests need to be a reasonable match to what you think you're going to see in the real world.
The biggest part of how we spent our time initially was the configuration alignment. Configuration settings and making them work well together took a very, very long time. Once we got the configuration working, the actual testing proceeded quite fast.
During this aggressive testing, we found some of the software bugs which we believe that we need to really fix it to make a more wider ecosystem. There are certain errors, some configuration mismatch, but I will definitely consider this as some kind of enhancement. We need to go back and check our software enhancement because those were never been validated in our internal lab.
You will have to collaborate between all the parties actually, not between RU and DU, because you have other components as well, just like the router, the switches in between. So if you have any issues, you will have to debug the issue with all the other parties, not only between the RU and DU.
Well, there are multiple vendors who are creating multiple infrastructure nodes out there, RU, CU, DU, core. And if you actually build your software, build your solution based on those open interfaces, you would be able to interwork or interoperate with any other third-party infrastructure node out there.
The biggest surprise was probably the level of camaraderie that the vendors came to the table with. They were all trying to help each other.
Cooperation, the readiness of other competitors' products, the fact that, within less than 5 weeks, they tested, put together an end-to-end system and making phone calls on it.
I'm actually really super thrilled with how far we got because the solution that I brought is really heavily relying on open source implementations. I think we showed just how far open solutions have come.
Open RAN is really real. It is there. It is robust.
ORAN really is an inflection point in the industry.
Our vision for next year is the same as it was for this year, to spur innovation, to accelerate secure, mobile, interoperable Open RAN, to increase competition, and to promote vendor diversity in the U.S.
One of our big lessons learned was more time. We need more time. So we are still planning out exactly what we're going to do, but we'd like to do 2 parallel test systems, maybe with multiple test vendors. It's still under development, but we'd like to figure out how we can get more people with the lab.
We're looking at the main challenge next year to be another similar plug-and-play experience where we're focusing on different interfaces and therefore different components.
We can play the role of system integrator so that the operators don't all have to go off and do system integration. If every operator in the world has to go do system integration and spend all the money, all the cost savings overran are lost. So if you can do that ahead of time and do it with compliance and do it from a test integration perspective with an independent lab, then the operators' rollouts are a lot faster.
I'm very excited about the results and the winners that we've uncovered as part of this challenge, what the future holds with open architecture and open 5G.
It's proving the readiness of product. So this is just really helping raise the bar, if you like, in terms of product readiness, product quality, and the ability to scale those into networks today.
5G Open RAN system can actually happen and can be very successful in the marketplace.
It really advances the industry and really advances the ecosystem. And so it's really exciting to be a part of that.
O-RAN really provides an opportunity to harness U.S. ingenuity and really drive industry and develop that industry here in the United States.
The future is that you have room for innovation. You have room for new vendors that haven't played before. You're not reliant on a monolithic integrator. You can now have multiple components be able to plug in. It's going to be amazing what's going to happen once we have the capability.